Harriet Hageman has had enough and she demands to know who is running the United States because we all know it is not Biden.
Debate between current President Joe Biden, past President Donald Trump play out last week, and we're still discussing the fallout of the debate. Largely, the conversation has been, is President Biden going to continue to run? What did you think of his performance, first of all?
It wasn't surprising. And in fact, I have been saying for well over a year that Joe Biden is suffering from severe dementia. So what is surprising to me is the reaction of the press, who are now trying to act as though they didn't know that this was the situation. And the reality is that there have been a lot of people who have been working overtime to try to cover up the fact that he is not cognitively all there. All anybody has had to do is look at videos of him from a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. He is an entirely different person. You can tell by his physical appearance. You can tell by his eyes. It appears to me that when he does go into public, they have him on drugs. His eyes are severely dilated. They look very, very strange. You see no color in them at all. They're just these really serious black dots that you can tell by the look on his face, the way he holds his mouth, the way he walks. So I wasn't surprised that he was not capable of having a coherent discussion last Thursday. What I'm surprised about is the number of people who act surprised that they didn't know that.
To be honest with you, I think in 2020, people were talking about Joe Biden not being all there cognitively. But the thing that really grinds my gears is, why do the people in charge want Joe Biden there if he's not 1000% capable? If he's not there mentally, why do they want him in the most powerful position on earth? It really makes you think, what is their objective? Why do they want someone weak and feeble in this office?
And a lot of the time when observing the president, he is like how he was on Thursday night. Is that something you agree with?
I would agree with that. And what I think that it's telling that yesterday, when his spokesman was asked about whether he was on drugs, the only thing she would say is he's not taking any cold medicine. So she's being very specific in terms of trying to say, well, he wasn't taking cold medicine, which was not the question at all. But from the standpoint of him having lucid moments, I'm not sure that I've seen the lucid moments. I think you even go back to the State of the Union address, and it was an angry man screaming from a podium, almost like your senile neighbor who's screaming, "Get off my lawn." He wasn't well. I mean, anybody with a lick of sense can look at what his physical and mental condition has been like for quite some time. And I am not at all surprised, again, by the way that he performed on Thursday night. He is suffering from dementia. We can see it. We know that. And so I have been asking the question, many people have been asking the question, who is running this country? Who is making the decisions? And I think that that's where we really need to go with these legitimate questions. Who's making the decisions about the open border? Is it Mayorkas? Has Mayorkas gone completely rogue and made the decision about not closing the border? Who's making the decision about Ukraine? What is the issue with Ukraine? And Joe Biden ostensibly just entered into a 10-year contract or agreement with Ukraine to provide security from the United States of America. None of us voted on that. The House didn't vote on that. Whose decision was it for the United States of America to enter into a 10-year security agreement with Ukraine? We know that they're withholding money and resources from Israel, despite the fact that Congress did vote to send that money to Israel. Who's making the decision to withhold that money? These are all very legitimate questions that we should be asking. Who is making the decisions in the White House?
I hate to sound conspiratorial, but a week and a half before John F. Kennedy was assassinated, he mentioned secret societies and shadow governments are running rampant in the world nowadays and how it has to be stopped. So it makes you think, are these the people that are calling the shots today? Joe Biden just a figurehead for these people so they can operate in the shadows with anonymity? We just cannot have a rogue leader or leaders doing whatever the heck they want.
His team, they are chalking this up to a bad debate night. You clearly think that there's something more. So what have the conversations been like with other lawmakers in the House, both Republicans, I'm sure you've talked to them, as well as Democrats, if you've talked to them about this?
So I'm going to repeat it again. I think anyone who has been paying attention recognizes that is a severe cognitive decline in the president from on a month-to-month basis, on a 6-month basis, on a yearly basis, on a 2-year basis. Just go back and look at the videos from a year ago or 2 years ago. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm an attorney. But I've had experience dealing with people over the years, as all of us have. Talk to Ronnie Jackson, Representative Ronnie Jackson, who is a physician and can describe for you, yeah, he's seriously declining from the standpoint of knowing what's going on around him. The gentleman is 81 years old. Now, look, my mother is going to be 101 years old this year. She's sharp as a tack. Absolutely sharp as a tack. She's not suffering from dementia. I'm around people who are aged. I'm around other people who are suffering from cognitive decline. So again, all of the people who are not trying to cover up what's been going on with Joe Biden are well aware of what's going on. I don't need a physician to tell me what my eyes are showing me.
So can you elaborate on what those conversations with fellow lawmakers have been like since the fallout from the debate? Because the president had trouble forming incoherent coherent sentences at times. He was trailing off. People seemed to be surprised after the debate. So in your conversations, you're saying no one in your circles was surprised.
We weren't surprised. We've been watching this take place for quite some time. The Joe Biden that we've been watching for the last 6 months showed up last Thursday. What the conversation before the debate is what were they going to try to do to try to cover up the fact that he's got these serious cognitive issues? So the question was, were they going to try to dial in on some kind of a cocktail to allow him to function better? Whether, I don't even know what kind of drugs they would have been giving him to do that. Were they changing his sleeping patterns so that 9 o'clock at night appeared to be 11 o'clock in the morning for him? His own staff has indicated that from about 10 to 4 is really the only period of time during the day that they can even engage with him, or he's capable of making decisions. So did they change his sleeping habits so that when he showed up on the stage that day, he didn't know it was 9 o'clock at night? So I'm going to go back to what I think is the most significant issue here. We're all focusing on his physical and mental decline, which I've been talking about for months and months and months, because I'm not an idiot. I mean, we know that there's something going on with the president. All of us do. So the bigger issue is who is running the country and who is making these incredibly important decisions. I'll go back to the Ukrainian thing again. He entered into an agreement with Ukraine for 10 years to provide security with no vote from Congress whatsoever. That's our role. He does not have the unilateral authority to do that. But who behind Joe Biden is the one making that decision? Because it's clearly not the president. Who is behind the decision of withholding aid to Israel? Because it's clearly not the president, despite the fact that Congress had actually voted to send that aid to Israel. Who is making the decisions about the student loans? The billions of dollars that the taxpayers of the United States of America are being saddled with because somebody wants to get a degree in gender studies and then can't get a job. Despite the fact that the United States Supreme Court has said that the president does not have the legal authority to do that in the first place. So I want to get back to the question of who is running the country, who is making these decisions, what unelected bureaucrat or bureaucrats are making the decisions for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's not there.
This girl, she is sharp and she is with it, because she's exactly right. If we cannot trust that the leader of our nation, our free nation, is making these calls, I don't trust that Joe Biden is making these decisions. I've seen the man speak. I know what he's genuinely like. I don't think he is sharp enough to make a lot of these calls. And these are major, major decisions. A lot of it is governmental overreach. Like, he should not be making these calls. The Ukraine issue, for example. We are giving billions upon billions of dollars to Ukrainians. Meanwhile, there are millions upon millions of Americans suffering every single day here. Why are we focused out there when we are having major problems here? This man is going to get us into World War III. But who knows? Maybe the people behind the scenes want that because it's profitable. You know what I say? Every single politician needs drug tests. Is that outrageous to say? They need to be held accountable, because these are the people who are leading millions of Americans. We need to make sure that they're sharp, they are with it. I don't trust Joe Biden as far as I could throw that dude. And I know for a fact He's not the one calling these shots. There's somebody in the background. There could be speculation around who exactly that is. You guys can put your predictions in the comments, but that's besides the point. If we vote somebody into the most powerful position on earth, the President of the United States, we need to be reassured that he's actually the one making the calls.
So he's blatantly violating the law. So I think that Mayorkas is absolutely culpable for what's going on with the border. I think Christopher Wray is absolutely responsible for some of the decisions where he's targeting conservatives, targeting Catholics, targeting parents who want to go to school boards and challenge what is going on with the education of their children. I think that Merrick Garland is also involved with targeting the political enemies of this regime. I think that was clear after the decision by the United States Supreme Court last week dealing with the January 6th issue. I have been saying for years now that you cannot use what is a financial statute that was adopted after the Enron situation to try to prosecute people for walking through the U.S. Capitol. Yet that's what they did, and the United States Supreme Court agreed with me. So I think Merrick Garland has been very much involved with persecuting what they perceive to be the enemies of the Democrats in this regime. Are there others? Yes. I look at, Pete Buttigieg, he's really just kind of out to lunch on pretty much everything. He's been a failure from top to bottom. So that's why you see the disasters in the transportation industry. You see that with the issue with our airliners. You see that with the train derailments. You see that with the challenges with the supply chain. So I think there's a variety of people who are working on these issues within this administration, none of them being the President of the United States. So again, we have no accountability for the decisions that are being made because the President is not the one making those decisions.
It's completely outrageous what the political sphere has turned into, and I think we have one option left. I think it's get Donald Trump back in office. Clear all these people out of the White House. And I know he says drain the swamp, and I'm sure all of us when we first heard that were like, yeah, a swamp. There's no such thing in a swamp in Washington. But the more and more I pay attention to this stuff, the more I realize Washington, D.C. is 95% swamp creatures, if not more. A lot of these people you cannot trust. It doesn't matter what side you're on, left or right. The Mitch McConnells of the world, Lindsey Grahams. You know what I think we should do? I think we should elect politicians. This is a crazy theory. Ready for this? Elect politicians who want America to thrive, not line their own pockets with money. We want people to put America first. Is that such a radical theory? I guess in the year 2024 it is, but I guess it just goes to show how much the world has lost its mind. Common sense is no longer common. Oh my goodness. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Who do you think is in the background making these decisions, making these calls? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. Until next time.